Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu ونشهد أن سيدنا وسندنا وشفيئنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وارحم على عبدك ورسولك Sayyidina Muhammadin Nabiyil Ummi wa ala alihi wa sallam tasleema. Alhamdulillah, we are in the month of Ramadan, and for some people they pray their fourth Taraweeh. Some have maybe even prayed their fifth night of Taraweeh, and for some it may even be, I suppose, in the daytime. May Allah Ta'ala give all of us tawfiq to get the most of this month of Ramadan. I thought that for the first 2 Ashara, before we enter the last 10 nights, I was thinking of what type of topic to do for these night talks. And purification of the heart, in one sense, is a topic that has been done many, many times. I've done it several times. Many ulama and mashayikh have spoken on this. But I wanted to do it somewhat differently this year. And so the first thing I want to do is share with all of you and explain in what sense I want to do it differently. A lot of people are very fond of studying tasawwuf and works by Imam al-Ghazali and like to attend and listen to talks and bayan and majlis. But then there reaches a point that it becomes just a cycle, a circuit. Whether that circuit is they only listen to one person, they listen to a few people, whether that circuit is they go very deep and they have books on tasawwuf and they listen about tasawwuf, and then I think they lose sense of the whole purpose. And the real purpose was not to know so much about purification of the heart, or not to, share every quote of every great alim and shaykh in the history about what they wrote or said about purification of the heart. The purpose is actually to purify your heart. And I think one reason why maybe some people end up in this circuit is because they're not properly grounded in the Quran al-Kareem, and they're not properly literate and aware of the hadith of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And without that grounding, without that core foundation and basis, a person cannot do tazkiyah bil Quran, how to purify their heart from the verses of Quran. And that goes beyond just the standard list of anger, greed, etc. Tazkiyah bil Quran, one of the most simple ways to purify one's heart through Quran al-Kareem is to reflect on the verses of Jahannam. It's not just about finding those verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken about anger, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken about envy. No doubt, many such verses exist and they are important and they need to be studied. But I think there's a mistake when purification of the heart became overdone. It became a mistake to think that it's just about 10 major vices of the heart and finding more about them. And alhamdulillah, no doubt that is a part of it. We have taught that. We will inshallah talk about some of that in this series as well. But I wanted to suggest that for those of us who have already read such books and heard such talks already, unless you're somebody who has absolutely no idea whatsoever, what does my deen say about anger, what does it say about envy, what does it say about love for the world, what does it say about hatred and malice for others, what does it say about unlawful lustful desires, what does deen say about vanity and arrogance and pride. Yes, if a person truly doesn't know what the deen says about those topics, then yes, it is very beneficial to go through the verses in Quran that talk about this, and the hadith that talk about this, and the teachings of Imam al-Ghazali, Shaykh Ali Thanvi, many other of the Mashaykh who spent a lot of their lives writing and teaching these things. And as I said, in fact, one mistake people, even when they do this, is they actually don't look so much at the verses in Quran or the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what I was trying to say is that purification of the heart definitely is about looking at those topics, but there's more. There's more to it. And so for those of us, and so this series is going to try to reach out to that more. More doesn't mean better. Maybe you could just say different, something additional, beyond just looking at those topics. And especially I think for those of us who, alhamdulillah, mashallah, have studied those topics or have attended talks on those topics or read books on those topics, we need something more. Because if we find that in our heart we still have anger, we still have greed, or we still worry about things, we still have anxiety, or we still have love for the world, or we still have ill feeling towards others, we have some of these ailments of the heart, illnesses of the heart, despite having studied Ghazali and learned this and taught that, then it means obviously we need more. Now if you look at the way, and this is a core function, as we were mentioning earlier in the Tafsir series, and I know I appreciate that, and that, that's 3 hours long, and that's very long for many of you. And some people were felt that it was a bit of a, when they see the title Gems of Quran, they think it's like a 20-minute thing where they will just get maybe 1 or 2 or 3 verses. But when you go through Quran al-Karim, you see that I think there's a lot of wisdom in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not having arranged the verses of Quran so simply in terms of topic. Otherwise, the Quran al-Karim could have been revealed like a textbook. This is the chapter on anger, and this is the surah on envy, and this is the surah on hubb dunya. No. Those teachings are scattered throughout, and they are often followed or prefaced by mention of Jannah, mention of fire of Jahannam, mention of Iman, mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mention of the azma and majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we need all of that, really. All of that to make the ayah of anger really hit us and strike us. We need all of that to purify our heart. And so these are just some thoughts I was having in the past few days. And I've thought of a couple of things that maybe we can try to do, inshallah ta'ala, to try to discover this. The first thing is obviously, alhamdulillah, that in the month of Ramadan, fasting itself is a purification of the heart. And you won't see that. Again, this is what I'm trying to say, that whenever you look at the table of contents of a book on this topic, or you look at the subjects or subtitles of a series of talks on this topic, you just find the ailments of the heart. So let's focus a bit more on the purification side, and that will make us go deeper into the a'mal and ibadat that we do. So I want to start with 2 things. Probably today I will only be able to do these 2. Fasting, Sawm and Salah. We have to actively try to use our fasts and our Salah to purify our heart. These are major fara'id, major fard ibadat of the. So alhamdulillah, with the karam and fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the month of Ramadan and we are fasting. So now we have to think, right? And sometimes, maybe some of you have experienced this as well. When you fast and when you increase your ibadah, whether that's tilawah, Quran or zikr, if you pause, for example, if you sit on the musalla for a few minutes after praying Taraweeh, or you sit on the musalla for a few minutes after praying Fajr Salah, or after you've recited however much Quran or Kareem you recited, you still sit there. Those are very good moments for you to reflect. Muhasaba, introspection, self-accounting, self-reckoning, being self-aware, self-examining. And look in your heart and see, not at that moment necessarily, but what do you find in your heart? What do you find in your behavior in the past few months? Look for the anger. Was there any moment I was angry with someone? Was there a person that I maybe spoke to out of anger? Was I short-tempered with someone? Look for the unlawful lust. Look for the greed or love for this world. Look for the moments when we were maybe stingy or miserly. Look for the moments when we had some type of arrogance and vanity. Look for that even in Ramadan. Sometimes what happens to some of us is if Allah Ta'ala only and only because of the karam and fazl, the grace and bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He might enable us to do something in Ramadan. Maybe somebody is going to recite the whole Quran in Ramadan, inshallah. Maybe somebody is praying tahajjud in Ramadan. Maybe, alhamdulillah, somebody is making du'as in Ramadan. And just within 2-3 days, they start thinking something of themselves. Or they start making grandiose plans for what they're going to do in the rest of Ramadan, or what they're going to do even next Ramadan. Allahu Akbar. Even that, what they're going to do next, they haven't even, it's just 3-4 days of this Ramadan has passed, and they're already thinking about how they will outdo themselves. This is another type of vanity and conceit. To try to outdo oneself, whereas realizing that even whatever I may be doing at this moment is not because of my own ability and skill, or my own talent, or my own resolve, or my own strength of iman. Whatever I'm doing right now is only and only because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I can beg that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me mazid, but there's no role that I have. I have no agency, I'm not an actor, I have no reality. And this is what happens in our heart. There's all types of things in the heart. And it's, yes, we should read a book on this topic and hear a series of talks on this topic and learn from Imam al-Ghazali on this topic. But once we've done some of that, we have to now read our heart. This is called muhasabah. We have to look into our heart and see and try to look deep, like with a microscope. Try to search for that rot, that disease, remnants of disease, traces of disease, dormant, latent, right? We're in this medical age, right? Dormant, latent disease. What is there? And you'd be amazed at what you will find. If you read the Purification of Heart book in your own heart, you will find things much more relevant to you than just reading any book necessarily. So we have to search for it. We have to see. Am I impatient with my spouse? Do I harbor ill will, resentment, malice, spite, hatred for someone? Where is it coming from? Why is it there? Why is it not going away? Am I really trying to make it go away? And like I said, one very good time to do muhasabah is after ibadah, after dhikr. To sit there and linger a bit and reflect and ponder and go deep into a person's heart. Sahaba kiram, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, their fikr and concern for themselves. There was a reason they stood up late night, spent a lot of the night. I'm not talking about Ramadan, generally throughout the year. Qaniteen, qa'imeen, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in devotion, in prayer, in humility, in longing. Yes, part of it was love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and part of it also was this desire to purify themselves from things, feelings, emotions that a person feels when they interact in the dunya. So this brings me to the second thing, which is Salah. The Salah is the arena for purification of the heart. It's not the classroom, it's not the online dars, it's not just the majlis and suhbah of a shaykh. The musalla and the salah we pray on it is the ultimate arena of purification of the heart. When we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in humility, when we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in yearning, when we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in consciousness, in fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the feeling of salah khashi'een. That is a wonderful way to purify the heart. Yes, knowledge is one step to know the illnesses, to know the different techniques and cures that Mashaykh have mentioned, but really practically, if we are strong and steadfast in our core ibadat, that is the best cure for the heart. The best cure for the heart. Look, think like this, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu. So let's look at, I'll give you one example. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and something we all study in the chapter on arrogance. There's a hadith, Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala narrates it amongst others. لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه ذرة من الكبر. That person who in their heart has a dharra, has an atom's weight of kibr, of arrogance. لا يدخل الجنة. Such a person will not enter Jannah. Such a person will not enter Jannah. Allahu Akbar. Now, how is that going to go away? Yes, a lot of pride can go away through study, learning, courses, but how is that dharra going to go away? How is that last atom going to go away? How is that latent trace going to go away? That is going to go away by standing in Salah. That is going to go away by humbling ourselves in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is going to go away, inshallah, by having more taqwa, having more fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's ajeeb, it's the dharratun, the tanween is for the slightest atom, the smallest particle of kibr. Now just to explain, right, what the ulama of hadith have commented here, it doesn't mean that such a person will necessarily is going to go to Jahannam. What it means is, number one, Allah Ta'ala could potentially purify that person, right, as we've discussed in the series in Quran, that Allah Ta'ala will do, inshaAllah, tazkiyah. He will purify people on the Day of Judgment through His rahmah, through His mercy, and then admit them into Jannah. Second possibility is, yes, they may have to go into the fire of Jahannam to purify what? Just this dharra, this last trace. Allahu Akbar. So better that we try to figure out a way, at least try and strive to eliminate that trace. That trace. So I want to continue this hadith since I've opened it up and just comment on the rest of it. Qila. So there was someone who said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the companions, Sahaba, but his name has not been mentioned by the narrator. The narrator is Ibn Masud, Abdullah ibn Masud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So Qila, one of the companions, it was said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Inna rajulu yuhibbu an yakuna thawbuhu hasana, that a person loves that their clothing should be beautiful. Wanelo hasana, and that their shoes should be beautiful. And it's interesting, because a lot of us, I think we also have these Western images of the Arabian desert, and all of us think of Sahaba in the way that people depict, desert Arabian Bedouin nomads. So look at this hadith, right? One Sahabi is saying that a person loves for their clothing to be hasan, to be beautiful, and even their shoes to be beautiful. Maybe you can, even if it's sandals, but still. Alright? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied to him. Number one, Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is beautiful, and Allah Ta'ala loves beauty. Right? So now this is a beautiful thing. I just come, since I have this city, there's not necessarily, not everything necessarily has to be about, it's going to be about purification of the heart, but when you open the hadith, you just want to explain the rest of it. So this is a beautiful way of replying. And what's meant here, what Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam meant, is that person who that Sahabi is talking about, or maybe is talking about himself, Allahu Alam, who likes to have beautiful clothing and likes to have beautiful footwear, that's not coming from that person themselves, that's coming because they're a creation of Allah Ta'ala, who is a being who himself is Jameel, and he loves Jamal. He himself is Jameel, like Alim, he is the being of immense, infinite beauty incarnate itself, the very definition of beauty. Inna Allah Jamilun, and Yuhibbul Jamal, he loves any beauty wherever it may be found. And obviously what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also meant was that this is not kibr. And then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam continued in his reply, Al-kibru, what is kibr? What is this pride and arrogance? Batarul haqqi. The first thing is that it is disdain for the truth. To think you are above and beyond al-haq. Whether it's the pride in a person who thinks they're above and beyond the haq of Iman and Islam itself, whether it's the pride of a Muslim and a mu'min who thinks they're beyond the ruling of the Sharia or some hukm shari or some Islamic teaching, that no, they're above and beyond that. Or even it may be, now what could be a dharra of this? Now this is now coming to what I wanted to explain. What is a trace? Do we have any trace in our heart of any slight disdain for something that is true? So let me give you an example of a dharra, of a small atomic trace of this. I recite Quran just fine. I don't need to study tajweed. That's something children do. Now, this is what I'm saying. You have to dig deep in yourself to find these things. It's not going to come in the Purification of Heart book. What is arrogance? Not wanting to learn tajweed. I've never seen a book that wrote that. But what I'm saying is you have to dig deep. I don't know if I'm just picking an example. There's going to be some trace in us. We have to dig deep and find that. Why? It's not for children. If I need to improve my tajweed, I have to learn it. It's al-haq. It's al-haq. It's the truth. Or I can't use miswak because I'm, a person who's enlightened and uses a toothbrush and toothpaste. But the vast majority of us use a toothbrush and toothpaste and miswak, right? I mean, the vast majority of people who use miswak, put it that way, also use toothbrush and toothpaste, right? Or, again, I'm telling you dharra. I'm not saying that these are the greatest forms of arrogance. But what was the hadith that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us? What is the hadith guiding us to search for? We have to find those atomic traces in our heart. What could be another thing? I don't want to go there because so-and-so will be there. And I don't want, I'm too, good to be in their company. Allahu Akbar Kabira. We should search for this. Is there any way, is there anything that we feel slight disdain for, or we feel slight distance for? And then Nabi Kareem said, to finish the hadith, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-kibru batarul haqqi. That what is kibr? Kibr means to have disdain for the truth, and ghamtun nas. Wa ghamtun nas. What is ghamt? Ghamt with ta, ghamt. Ghamt means to have, like you can say, contempt for people. Allahu Akbar. Contempt for people. So anyone that you kind of look down upon, is there anyone that you notice their flaws and you have contempt for them because of that? You say, oh yeah, I can tell they're showing off. Oh yeah, I can tell they think they're something. Oh, I can tell they don't treat their workers well. Or I can tell they have an ego. Okay, maybe you can tell these things and maybe you might even be correct. But is that leading to a dharra? Again, is there a dharra, an atom of ghamt in your heart for them? Oh, not la. Now go back to the start of the hadith. La yadkhulul jannah. Such a person will not go to Jannah. Allahu Akbar Kabira. They may have done all the courses and all the durus and all the halakas and all the majalis and all the suhbah. They have that dharra there. And why is the dharra still there? Because they never did the muhasabah. So one way is that in the month of Ramadan, and let me explain this as well. Why I said in Ramadan, after dhikr, after ibadah. So this, to find these dharra, to find these atomic traces in your heart, it requires something called firasa. It requires a basira. It requires an insight. It requires Allah Ta'ala to open it up for you. And normally, Me and you are in so much ghafla, so involved in dunya, so distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so few ibadat, that we don't have that firasa, that basira, we don't have that level of insight and perception to do this type of muhasabah, that we can find these atomic traces in ourselves. But alhamdulillah, in the month of Ramadan, due to the barakah of fasting, the barakah of Sawm, then due to the barakah of alhamdulillah, all of us inshallah, stay away from sins in this month of Ramadan. Then inshallah, due to the barakah of what? The fact that we increase in our ibadat in this month of Ramadan, it's different. Our perception, our insight about ourselves, about ourselves, about our deen, our iman, our amal, our akhlaq, is much greater. Just think we have a heightened awareness and sensitivity to our ruh in this month. We have a heightened awareness and sensitivity to our qalb, to our spiritual heart in this month. So because of this, because of la'allakum tattaqun happening, so we should use that heightened awareness and sensitivity to search for these dharrat, to search for these atomic traces. And that's, when I continue on this hadith, because no doubt the hadith is specifically about kibr, but it's also an ishara. The not entering Jannah part will just be about kibr. We cannot extend that by way of analogy. But what we can extend by way of analogy is the word dharra, that just like that illnesses of the heart, such as kibr, so go back to the table of contents of the Purification of Heart books, all the other illnesses of the heart may also be present in just dharra trace form. Okay? And I will come to that. Maybe not tonight, but inshallah in this series. So ghamtun nas, do I have an atomic trace of that? Do I have any remnant of that? So I was saying in Ramadan, we have this heightened awareness. It's the best chance we ever have to be able to see this minutiae, this level of detail in our heart. So I would suggest that we add, inshallah ta'ala, to our a'mal of Ramadan, few moments, doesn't have to be few minutes, anywhere from few moments to few minutes of such muhasabah. Okay, let's say you do the muhasabah and then you feel, yes, I realized something, I remembered something, I'm noticing something, I have these things, we were going to say we have much more than traces of them, but mashallah, let's say somebody says, I have some level of it, some trace of it. What should I do? And now stand up and pray salah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stand up and pray 2 nafil, 2 extra rakahs. Play them like a salatul hajah, right? The sunnah, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that if we have a need, a particular deep, urgent, pressing need, we can pray 2 rakahs salah, known as salatul hajah, and make a particular special sunnah dua after that. And feel that this is my hajah, this is my need, that I sat here for a few moments and did muhasabah and I discovered this thing about myself. This is my need, I need this gone, I need this to be purified. And beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using that sunnah dua and then in your own words, in your own language, that Allah ta'ala purify your heart. Like Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to make the dua, Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha, that oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant my nafs its taqwa. What does it mean? Because Allah said, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah Ta'ala has inspired the nafs, the self, with fujur, with rebellious disobedience, and taqwa, with pious obedience. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua to Allah Ta'ala, Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha, that Allah Ta'ala grant my nafs its taqwa, وَزَكِّهَا, and purify it. Anta khairu man zakkaha, indeed you are the best being who will purify it, who may purify it. You are the best to purify it. Anta waliyuha wa mawlaha, you are the wali of me, of myself. Wa mawlaha, and you are the master of me. So because you are my wali and my mawla, you are my muzakki. So make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then move and build on the feelings and sentiments that are expressed in these words, in these du'as, and then make dua using the same feelings. Something I talked about a few weeks ago, to ride the wave of the feelings of sunnah du'as. Now, if you, just to go back a little bit to this hadith, if you look at this, the two ways that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about kibr. One is the disdain for al-haq, and second is the contempt for people. So this type of kibr obviously means, number one, that there must be a haq, and there is. That is all of Deen of Islam. And number two, there must be some people in our life that we interact with. So we should, if we're searching for this, we should think of our relationships. Do I have any slightest amount, dharra, of contempt for anyone in my family, anyone in my friends, anyone in my circle of interaction, anyone in my present, anyone in my past? And if that is so, then we should make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove that feeling from our heart, Inside the salah, this 2 rakats, nafil salah, salat al-hajjah, during the salah we're not supposed to think about this. So that's another thing, that when we do muhasabah and we have a realization, okay, let's say Allah Ta'ala blesses us with a realization, that realization itself is also not to be glorified, or that we focus on that, or we share that with someone, I had this realization. No. You stand in salah and you even forget that realization. You forget everything except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because all hidayah, all rushd, all guidance, all being on the right and sound and correct path is all in order for us to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to connect to Allah ta'ala. It's not that we get a realization that now I will correct myself. No, I will connect to Allah ta'ala and ask Allah ta'ala to correct me. This is the benefit of salah. So Saum and Salah are, alhamdulillah, Salah is something we do every day, and this is the month of Saum. So these days, you should view it like that, the days of Ramadan are the days in which I combine the fard of Salah and the fard of Saum, the fard of established prayer and the fard of the mandatory fasting, in order to purify our heart. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength and give us this understanding. And this is just one way, and may Allah ta'ala open us any and every way to bring about this purification. And ultimately, truly, really, it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah ta'ala said in Quran al-Kareem, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. And indeed it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who purifies the hearts and selves of whomsoever He wills. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accept our fasts, and He accept our prayers, and He accept our du'as in this month of Ramadan, and that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do tazkiyah of our hearts, and may Allah ta'ala enable us to focus on all the core teachings of deen, and remembrance of Jahannam, remembrance of Jannah, yearning for Jannah, fear of Jahannam, reflection upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala ground us in Quran al-Kareem, ground us in the Sunnah and Seerah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.